Hola.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great, great. Good to meet you online, but almost in person.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, these days?
Did you have a good morning?
Really good. So my mum, I've got a baby. So
One?
one. So
Yeah.
my, like I'm not really sleeping and all that sort of stuff. And my mum took her last night. So I had the first uninterrupted. I actually only managed to get 6 hours, but it was still an uninterrupted sleep. So that was the first one since, well, probably a year.
Yeah. So the baby is a year old now?
Baby's only 3 months, but I didn't sleep when I was pregnant either.
Yeah.
Um, so this morning I had obviously I had the casting that I told you about, but I also had to do a film, like a self-tape, and send that off. So I'm like, go me, it's only 11:15 and I've done stuff more than
Dude,
I normally do at this time with baby.
I think I have failed to appreciate how much passion, how much effort is, that parents put in. Like we're three, I have two siblings, and I'm seeing it now with my best friends that are having babies. And
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I definitely did not appreciate it. I'm starting to see like, and we're talking about peak performance with athletes, it's peanuts. It's like we're on the field, we're in the water, we're like playing a freaking game. Peak
Literally,
performance is being a parent, huh?
I know it really
Yeah.
is. Nothing like, I've always challenged myself loads in my life. I've always pushed myself to extremes. I've always thought that I worked really bloody hard until I had a
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it a boy or a girl?
It's a girl.
Okay, cool.
Thank God. I didn't want to be faced with a little Willy. The idea of dealing with a boy.
Well, I'm thinking this. Yeah, but are you gonna have more kids? More than one?
Oh, hang on a minute. I don't know. It's far too early to answer these questions.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. I guess. Yeah.
And
We Sorry, go ahead.
how has your morning been?
What's good? My girlfriend and I, we moved into a new apartment over the weekend.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, and we're really feeling grateful because it is really a nice place. I'm seeing like over Zurich here. It's pretty cool, yeah. And yeah, because last time I moved in with a girlfriend, it was a long time ago, and that did not go well. But with her, it's like it could be the one. So that's at least how I feel. So it's pretty cool and it's exciting.
Oh, that's lovely. How
Yeah.
exciting. Do you want kids?
Yeah. If I don't hear it like too often, how hard it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. It's worth it. It is worth it.
It is high.
Yeah.
So what can you like describe what it is to be a parent? What is it that makes it worth it? I know it's probably hard to, they say like when it's there, it, but how would you?
I think unconditional love, that you
Mm,
are able to give something as well as receive,
mm,
um, and give it knowing that it's being received and really being heard, and vice versa, because there's all, I mean, can't speak on behalf of everybody, but I know that when I give love over my life, it's come with not conditions, but it's come with fear with it, no matter what, there's always an element of fear somewhere along the line. Even when you give love, I think quite often there's a bit of ego linked with it, that you're perhaps, God, I'm getting quite deep quite quickly, but if I think about what I've learned in counseling and stuff, there are very few people that you can love without any conditions at all, and the same in return, I think. Whereas a baby is raw, this is really raw, really authentic, true love, and you can really feel it, and you're each other's life rafts, oddly, which is, it's really nice. It's really, really, it's really beautiful.
wow, I
Wow, I
love
love
that.
that. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you something else. I guess it's also, so that's what I hear from young parents or like new parents, that you discover yourself. You're gonna learn so much about yourself again, right? Like we think we got it figured out, and then it's like a whole new story again, and you just level of awareness goes up, 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 up with being a parent.
Yeah, it's so true. I never wanted children. I was never fussed. I would happily have not ever had them. You know, it really was not something that was on my radar. I'm 40 in 2 weeks' time. You know, I'm an old,
You look younger.
I'm a geriatric mum, is what they call you.
Okay, but you look younger for
Good,
sure. Yeah.
thank God.
So what happened? What happened then? How did it change? Was it like per accident, or did you find
Well,
the one?
one key thing is finding someone that you'll be happy to have children with.
Mhm.
And know that they're going to look after you and your family and that they're good humans. That's quite a key factor. The other thing that triggered me, other than the fact that both my mum and my nan and my auntie all had their menopause by the time they were 38, 39. So that's a big deal for some, you know, when the clock's ticking. But, and yeah, and so with that comes, you might lose the choice. For me was a big deal. And then also, just before we decided to go ahead, I was under the impression, actually, it turns out to be okay, but I thought my dad might be getting some form of Alzheimer's or dementia or something. And that was a real trigger for me, oddly. It was a bit of a flip of a, gosh, we're getting much older, my parents are getting older, and it would be really sad if they weren't able to see this new part of, you know, this new life and stuff like that. So yeah, there were a few factors that kicked off for me around it all. And yeah, and now all I wish is that I did it 10 years before. Not because, I mean, life wasn't right for me anyway 10 years ago, but, you know, for the fact that I'm like, oh man, it's much cooler than I ever thought it would be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say that's with a lot of things in life, right? We look back and like, okay, it would have been cool to know that before, but at the same time, we don't regret it because it made us the person we are today, right? It had to happen. So, but you know, it's really interesting what you say about your dad, because it's similar with my dad. He is getting older, and I feel like, you know, sometimes that curve it like accelerates a bit, and I see, because in my grandmother, his mother, you know, she got quite old, and she had certain things that she did when she got older, like in her face, the way she moved, and I'm starting to see it really clearly in my dad, because I spent a lot of time with my parents, so I see it, and I'm also, it's on my mind as well. So it's like, it's really helpful to hear, you know, that other people are going through similar thoughts, because you know, I do believe we should look and do what we want, but at the same time, like these thoughts do come in, right? And so it's good to hear that.
Yeah, I agree. We had, my nan was like the head of this amazing, massive family. You know, I grew up with a lot of cousins. We were very close, all of us.
Mhm.
And my nan was like this head of, she was just surrounded by love. And that was amazing. We all thought the world of her, and she thought the world of all of us too. And that was so lovely. And I know that she really cherished that. And when I was, you know, always thinking, nah, I don't need it, don't want to have children, then I thought, God, I'd be missing out on so much potential in the same way that she, you know, that what she sort of showed me was a really lovely thing to have. But it's just much harder, isn't it, these days, because we all keep pushing our careers for so much longer, men and women. Women, you know, women particularly, but men as well, I think.
Yeah, and it's still, so I think Sweden and Norway are going with a good example, right? That the equal pay, equal opportunity, and all that. So I think, but in Switzerland, you know, the laws are still not that great, and yeah, I think we can still learn and make it easier for parents to have both, because I mean, it's possible, you know, just because your mom doesn't, it probably makes you even better performer, you know, but for some reason it's still like the thinking sometimes isn't up to date yet. And you know how it is. And I was a banker before I transitioned into coaching. And you have all these people that have, and it's okay because they had a different career. They had to struggle, always like they work hard, and it's in their brain. They're programmed for that. That's their culture. And they're sitting on top of the banks. They're the MDs and, the managing whatnot, executive board. And if they're having those ideas, it will take a while until the next generation comes and can change the leadership, I think, because yeah, can't blame them if they've experienced that all their life. And then my boss was one of them. He's like, I went through it, you got to go through it.
Yeah.
I went through the shit, you got to do it. And that's, yeah, it's not very up to date, but it is what it is.
I love all this. As far as I'm concerned, we've already started podcasting because
sure.
It's already been interesting.
Yeah, that's where it flows. It's the best. I love it so much.
I agree. So welcome to Mindset Unfiltered.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time out. So you said you were a banker before, but while you were banking then, you were swimming a lot, presumably?
Hey, it was actually, I was swimming in America in college. That was until 2012. And then my highlight was the Olympics 2012. And then after that, I went back to Switzerland and swimming is not the same in Switzerland than it is in America, because in America, it's all about the team. And I love that. And then I was back in Switzerland. I wasn't so motivated. Coaches weren't so motivated. I was just, okay, I'm done. And then I got into banking because I thought I got to catch up and make money.
Very wise. Did you enjoy, we'll go into it, but I guess you'd learned a lot from the swimming that you did do when you were younger. You must have learned a lot from that and from the discipline to have managed to get to something like the Olympics. Must have been quite full on.
But what we talked about before, like, I think I was just missing the awareness of what was really going on. I was doing things, but not because I really chose to do it, because it was just like kind of on autopilot. So I was lucky that I had good people around me in a sense. But, when I think about it, I swam probably because my dad swam, right? So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
So in the end of the day, like, I learned a lot and it was a good time, but there's a lot of things I would do different. Like if I could go back again, not that we're regretting, because it had to happen that way. But I think there's a lot of things when we look back, right? We could be like, oh my God. And that's why it's so cool to speak to the next generation, because some mistakes, I guess they just have to make it. They have to, see that it's hot and they burn themselves. Well, there are other mistakes that they don't have to make. And I think that's why it's cool to share, just like what you do, what I do, what other people do, and give back.
Yeah, I agree. That's really interesting that you say that. When I was younger, I was a good horse rider, show jumper, and I did really well, for my age, and I did get to a good level, and by rights, had I carried on, I could obviously, you've got to really invest in the horse world, and you've got to buy very expensive horses, and we were really pushing for it, but it was, dare I say it, more my mum's dream than my dream. And like I started when I was 5 because my mum bought a horse, and I was sort of geared towards, that's kind of what our life was, that's what she did, and so therefore it's what I did. And I pushed and pushed, and like you said, I had good people around me. Everybody sort of invested in me as well. I had good trainers and things because people could see potential and all that malarkey. But how much of it was my decision or my path? It really wasn't at all. I loved it, but it wasn't my journey. And so when I was then old enough, 17, it was quite clearly when I got to college and I found that boys and drinking and,
Yeah.
and socializing was more important to me than getting up at the crack of dawn and mucking out horses and doing all of the discipline that came with horse stuff. Then I was like, okay, now I'm going to go off on a completely different journey. But what I learned from those years of competing to a high level has definitely impacted me now and gave me so much confidence, and I learned a lot about competition and about how I felt about winning and losing and teamwork and comparing myself and all those things. Would you say that that's the same for you?
Yeah, I would definitely, I agree with that. And also, isn't it like, wouldn't you say that being an athlete, they have like this special, it's like a burning desire inside of them to see how far they can push themselves and to like be the best version of themselves, right? And sometimes you can win something and you're still disappointed because you know you could have done better.
Oh yeah.
And the other way around, you can do badly in terms of the ranking or points or whatnot or time, but you can still be happy because you know you tried something new and you're actually growing. And I think that is something pretty cool when you, but it's a learning process that we don't always just look at the results, but like how we feel, what we make of it, right?
Yeah,
And
that's a really good way of putting it.
mhm.
That's so true.
And I mean, look, I also work with a few kids on their mental game, and it's really interesting. Like tennis players, for example, when I ask them, you know, how do you know you had a good game, or how do you know you had a good practice? A lot of them, one of them is 11, and he will go like, well, I look at my coach, and he will tell me, right? And so you see that he's very outward focused. He doesn't feel intuitively when he's doing it right or right, you know, good and not good. And so I think when we're working with them, I try to get them to look at themselves, to start to, you know, trust their instinct, because your coach sees things, but I mean, you know, there's going to be times when the coach isn't there, the parent isn't there. So you want to be relying on yourself and not just what's going on the outside. And I think that's how you become really powerful.
Yeah, wow. It must be really rewarding to work with children in
Yeah.
that.
Especially in today's times, because everything is online with the kids. At least here in Switzerland, we can do offline work. So it's like double cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. So how did you go from the banking world to the coaching world? And are you full time now coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually, because of an Englishman, so God bless England. There's an older guy, you know, like 60 years old, and he invited me. I just met him like randomly, I thought at the time, right? But probably know that there is no coincidences. Somehow the universe arranges itself, right? Would you agree?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, with a big smile, right? So the guy invited me for a tea, you know, and I thought, all right, that's odd. Like I've never been invited to a tea, you know, you go for a beer or dinner or whatever. So we went, we ordered our cup of tea, and then he told me, I clearly remember, he's like, David, everything that you're thinking is very subjective and it's not the truth. And I sat there, I was like, everything I'm thinking is so subjective and it's not the truth. And I was like, damn, he's right. You know, like I was like, it's hard to argue with that because I loved arguing because I thought, you know, I know a lot. I'm a banker, I make a lot of money, you know, all these things. And I was like, fuck, he's right. And I started reading books about it. Then I got coaching on this and started to wake up like how programmed I was or how we humans are. And then that what you were saying is like you start to wake up to your own dreams, what you really want. Not saying it wasn't good,
Mhm.
but it can be better. It can be more fulfilling. And that was the start of that. Yeah.
Wow. I love those like pivotal moments. Like you say, it's I'm all about the universe. I totally agree with the universe.
Yeah.
Um, and I have really defining moments where something has happened, you know, somebody said something, or I've been in a position like that, a cup of tea or whatever. It's so
Mhm.
random, isn't it? And then suddenly you start going off this way. And you're like, that was the sliding doors moment, wasn't it, for you?
That's right. And sometimes it could be for a lot of people, it's also the the shit moments, right? And they're like, oh my God, you know, and then they have a realization and they come back stronger than ever. They know what they want and they're just going for it. Cause I mean, you could almost, I mean, knock on wood, but there's people that have an experience, they almost die, right? And then they look death in the face and then they come back and they know what they want and they know they have a limited time and they really want to make it happen and make it worth their time and inspire and contribute. And that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful.
So, what would you say that is I mean, tell us about Tribe of Athletes. You seem to cover an awful lot there. Your videos are fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, we're working with professional athletes and we just do the mental game. We just do the mental side of things. And we have yeah, it's no swimmers, funnily enough, because I used no swimmers, but tennis, soccer, cycling, fighting, all kinds. And, you know, this is the knowledge that I'm teaching. That is not my knowledge. It's knowledge of William Whitecloud, Bob Proctor. You know, like these people have spent their entire lives studying the most successful business people and athletes and parents and artists. And even though these people are completely different and come from different cultures, but they have one thing in common: they know what they want, and they have a dream, and they hang out with that dream more often than the average person. And Michael Jordan did just that, right? Roger Federer, Michael Phelps, they had a dream and they hung out with that dream a lot. And that's what we're doing at the tribe. It's like it's all in the mindset.
Yeah. And what is it? Is it 10,000 hours or something? You do it 10,000 times or something, and then that becomes, you know, practice, 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 consistency, consistency, consistency.
Yeah. And like changing diapers for you, right? In the beginning is probably like a little bit.
I'm a professional. I've definitely
Now, yeah,
times.
exactly. We learn through repetition. We learn everything through repetition because it goes in the subconscious mind with the repetition. And so, you know, a lot of athletes, but people also, they intellectually understand something and they're not getting the results, and then they become confused, and they look at other people and it's working for them, but the reason is just they haven't really internalized it yet. With repetition and with the mindset, it's exactly the same thing. If you just understand it intellectually, doesn't mean you have internalized it. And that's why, you know, those 10,000 hours, you know, it's the same. If you have a good forehand in tennis, you train that again and again and again, and you got to do it the same with the mind.
Yeah. Do you think that's what makes somebody a champion? What do you think makes someone a champion?
Yeah, yeah. I'm convinced. I'm convinced that it's the dream that they have, because we can create like look around you, right? What's not growing by Mother Nature, but for example, that glass, it existed in somebody's mind as an idea first, and now it's physically here. The microphone that we're using, you know, somebody had an idea to create that, and now it's here. The Wright brothers had an idea to fly. Now we fly across the globe in first class. If we want, we can have breakfast. We can even, I heard we can take showers in the new airplanes. I've never done that, but it's absolutely crazy. But it existed as an idea first, as a dream, and then it manifested. And when you look at all these athletes that really made it happen, I mean, that's what they had. They had a dream.
Yeah. And
Would
they
you
had
agree?
the dream, and they had the right motivation.
Yeah.
I think it's like figuring out what your motivation is.
Can you elaborate a bit more on that? It's interesting.
That I think you need to work out, you know, it can be from being a champion, even, or down to wanting to lose a few pounds.
Yeah.
People quite often mistake their why, being about I want to lose a few pounds because I want to fit into a skirt. That's generally not enough to keep you motivated. You know, I think you've got to find out what your why is, what your key motivator is. You know, if it's that you want to lose a few pounds because you want to fit into a skirt, because you want to feel better about yourself, and you want that to translate into your day-to-day life, because you know, you want X, Y, and Z to happen and all this, and you've got a bigger motivation, then you're much more likely to commit to losing a little bit of weight. And I think that if you're, you know, in the same way that you and I, you did, granted, you took it to the Olympics. I didn't get to Olympic level show jumping because I didn't have my motivation. I had the motivation to be the best that I could be, at something. And I have that drive in everything I do, but I didn't have the correct motivation to be a show jumper.
Yeah, got it. I mean, you know, I think my motivation was also not the best, to be honest, like looking back, because I mean, also there's another thing that comes to it with the goal setting and having dreams. It's like nobody, at least I wasn't taught, and I'm not aware that is being taught somewhere here in school, or my parents certainly didn't know that, on how to even have dreams, like how creation works, you know. And so I was operating out of setting realistic goals, make Swiss champ. Okay, I got that. I can make it to the European champs. And I did that. But it never entered my mind to win Olympic gold because that was just so far away. And nobody taught me that you can have big dreams.
Mm.
And so it's a lot also about in the beginning about information that, and because when you have the knowledge and you understand how this is working and you see it's possible for everybody, because we do have these higher faculties like imagination. I mean, what is imagination? We can look into the future, basically. It's so cool. But they tell you in school, don't look outside, pay attention here. So the school system has a lot to learn. And yeah, oftentimes we think if you travel back 20 years and you told somebody we're going to be using these phones, they would think you're crazy. And now everybody is using it. It's just, yeah, awareness.
Yeah, that's so true. And so true what you said about the school system. So I'm studying to be a counselor at the moment, and we do a lot on, your core beliefs and your locus of evaluation and the things that you learned when you were in school. So if you were around um, people, we do a lot of shoulds. I should do this.
Mhm.
I can't do this. I must do this. Based on stuff that we've learned in our lifetime, and a lot of it comes from what we learn at school. And like you say, you don't get taught at school that you can actually achieve sort of Olympic level if you want to. That's you can do that. It's not that just the celebrities do it or the big stars do it. You can also do that, but we get told an awful lot more in school. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. You're unlikely to be able to. And unless you've got someone around you that's able to get rid of those beliefs and support your dreams, then you spend your whole life going, no, I can't be that person. That stuff happens to other people.
Yeah. So true.
So,
Can I ask you a question? What's a counselor? What kind of counselor are you going to be?
I'm not sure yet. At the moment, I'm
Okay.
doing what's called person-centered counselling.
Mhm.
Um, Within that, I've learnt psychodynamics, so more Freudian level stuff, Erickson, CBT, which is really interesting, the CBT model, which actually resonates a lot with what you talk about with your athletes that we'll go into. Um,
Sorry, what does that stand for?
Cognitive behavioral therapy,
Ah, okay. Yep.
rewiring of the brain,
Mhm.
rewiring of the subconscious, in fact, which is
Mhm.
something that I know that you talk about and we can delve into. Um, and and so then the next stage, I will probably do what's called an integrative counseling. So then I'll learn a little bit more about like art therapy and drama therapy, and then I don't know, then I'm not sure, but then I guess in theory I'll be qualified to cover any type, but I can then specialize if I want to.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Cool. A lot to learn, huh? We always have a lot to learn. That's great.
We do indeed. So tell me about talk. Actually, let's go into that. You cover a lot in your videos about the subconscious mind. So for our listeners, can you explain to us what that means?
Yeah. So the way I think that everybody understands very easily is that when we come to the planet and when we're a baby, we have, if you imagine this is the mind, right? Like a circle. You have the top half is your conscious mind, is like what we're using here right now, and is the thinking mind. And then you have the bottom half, which is the subconscious mind. And the baby that comes to the planet doesn't have the thinking mind yet. It doesn't have the thinking capabilities. They develop around 5, 6 years old, right? And you can also, the neuroscience, they will tell you that the brain is in a hypnotic state. So the brain waves are in a hypnotic state. And that means the subconscious is wide open. So it's just like, it's a bowl. It's literally like a bowl. And what happens is that all these impressions from the parents, from the siblings, from whatever the environment, just come right into the baby, right? That's how you can explain that a baby that is growing up in Japan will speak Japanese. A baby that's grown up in Switzerland will probably speak German or French. A baby that's growing up in England will speak English. And if it's learning 4 languages because the parents speak different languages, it will learn that. So that's like, it goes right in there. And whatever is programmed in there is like, it's your subconscious mind that is running your body, because it's in every cell of your body. You're not like thinking about your heart, about your breathing, about which, to move your fingers, what you need to do. It's all in there. So, and you're learning with repetition. Whatever is impressed with repetition is going right in there. And so if it's running your body, it's your body that moves into action, and it's the actions that you take that will give you the results. And that's why, like, just intellectually understanding something in the top half of that mind, it doesn't do much, because, or nothing at all, because your body is still going to do what your subconscious is programmed to do. And that's why we got to reprogram the subconscious mind to what serves you, because we have a lot of habits that don't serve us anymore, and that we don't want, and we don't know how to get rid of it. And that's why we got to use repetition, and we can use the thinking mind, our imagination, our will, all these higher faculties that animals don't have, and we can impress the ideas that we want, and the dreams and the thoughts, up on the subconscious mind with repetition, and literally reprogram it to what we want to attract and what we want to do.
So how do you do that?
Yeah. So
you and said, that would this be a good example, that I really want to do X, Y, and Z, but I don't feel like I'm good enough, or something like that. Would that be where you would start with?
Yeah. So there's 3 things that I teach my athletes that they need to know about the subconscious mind. So the first one is, it only learns through repetition. Okay. And that is, as we've seen in the baby and so on. So it learns through repetition. The second one is that the subconscious mind doesn't have the capability to reject an idea. And that's, the thinking mind. If you scroll through social media, you can say, oh, no, I don't like that. You can reject any idea that you want if it's not fitting your world of, your view of the world, or your opinion, or whatever. You can reject that. But the subconscious mind can't do that. That's why the baby, even, growing up in Japan, it will love rice. Growing up in Italy, it will love pasta. That's how it works. So it cannot reject. Okay, that's number 2. And then number 3, and this is also very, very powerful to know, is that the subconscious mind cannot differentiate between a real experience and one that is vividly imagined, right? And now let's just think, if we can use our imagination to imagine something, how we want to be and what we want, and we use repetition to impress that again and again up on our subconscious, it cannot reject it, and it will go in there. It will not be from today to tomorrow, but it will go like a week, 2, 3, 4, and all of a sudden it will change your life. And we use that with confidence all the time. They say, athletes say, is confidence a good example? They would say that they're experiencing self-doubt, and that they feel confident if they had a good preparation, for example, right? But the trick is, how can you be confident before you go in the match? Like, and that is if you vividly imagine it, and you can write it down how you feel in present tense, and you write the same freaking sentence for 20 times. Or you stand in front of the mirror and you go like this, and you tell yourself, what kind of athlete that you are. And it sounds silly, but this stuff isn't complicated, but you just have to do it, and you have to do it with repetition. That's why, like, every athlete that works with me has to commit to do 10 to 15 minutes a day to do these exercises. Otherwise, I don't think it will work.
I feel like you're like someone who takes manifestations and makes it happen in a scientific way.
Yeah. I mean, like, the Bible and the Quran and all these books, they speak about that, like the laws of the universe, right? They speak about it. It's just, did we have the right teachers to break it down for us that we understand, or was it given to us in a weird way? But they are, like, this is not new knowledge, but now quantum physics can back it up. And it's cool, because people who love science, they're like, oh, okay, now, now I believe it better. But it's always been here. People have always created stuff, and that's what sets us apart from animals. Animals can't physically create. They fit into the environment. Their senses are sharp. They feel at home. But we human beings, our senses aren't that good, but we have these higher faculties that we can literally create. Like I'm in a house on the 10th floor. I mean, we created that stuff.
So what if someone were to come to you and say that they don't have the motivate, or they're struggling with motivation at the moment, that it was all fine, and then for some reason, I say that because I know a lot of people struggled through lockdown, for example, with motivation, and particularly, athletes who are used to getting out there and doing stuff and used to having a crowd to help them and all those sorts of things. So lots of them are currently struggling with the motivation to keep going with it. What would you say there? Because presumably there's, you talk about the subconscious, presumably during things like lockdown, possibly there were some gremlins that have crept in to sort of bring that confidence and stuff down and motivation down.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I think we, to some extent, we all kind of experience that, right? But what I would say is that our dreams, they, if it's a real dream, they don't depend on a COVID or a lockdown or a setback. Like if it's a real dream, we'll find a way, and we're not. That's what it's like, looking at the outside, what's happening, and then reacting to it. That's what most people do. And and I'm not saying I mastered that, because those things, I'm working on that as well, right? But I just know that the good way to go about this is to stay true to what you want, and you'll find a way. And that's, we try to think in terms of end results, on what do you want, and not how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because the how, if you're open to the how, we talked about that, the universe will help you in ways that you can't predict.
Yeah. Yeah, which kind of goes back to that motivation again, or finding out the why.
Yes.
Motivation.
Yeah.
What about a couple of weeks ago I interviewed Glenn McCrory, who was a world champion boxer, and he lost his world title to Alex Legouix, and then had to end his career. And I mean, in boxing land, it's a massive thing, isn't it? They lose a fight and then they're sort of really encouraged to retire, which is just so bizarre. It doesn't really happen in many other sports, I don't think. But what about dealing with retirement or dealing with failure, those sorts of things? What advice do you have there?
Yeah, I mean, it's in the moment, obviously it always is very tough, right? In injuries, yeah, all these kind of things, very tough. But what I tell my athletes is that when we look at our life so far, every time something shit happened, something unexpected, something that you didn't like in the process, like you always had a choice. You either, you give up to it, and you quit, or whatever it is, or you look at the learning. What can you learn out of this? And then when you look back with a little bit of time between the event and where you are now, you're looking back and say it was a blessing. Like, this is not as, but for me personally, like in the bank, working for the bank, I got angry when I got a big bonus payment. Why did I get angry? Because other people got more. And I was so upset that I left the bank, but it made 0 sense. But like looking back, it's like, thank God I did all that. Thank God it happened. Because now I'm here. And I think with athletes, it's if they can really, and with everybody, if you can remember that you're so much more than what just happened to you, and that your life, is going to go on, and you can do so many cool things. You can inspire, you can give back, there's just so much to do. And you just try to focus on the learning. What is it that you can learn? Yeah, that's like, but it is tough. There's no two ways about it. You can't just say, well, take it easy and all that, because if that's all you do, yeah, but I would really say, look for the learning. And sometimes, people can help you find the learning, and yeah, just try to grow from it.
How good are you at taking your own advice?
Sorry, can you say that again?
How good are you at taking your own advice?
So, can you give me an example of that? Like how you?
Wow, what's your self-talk like?
Yeah, I rely on people helping me, because when and it's happened many times that I tell somebody, for example, when I have a conflict with somebody and I start to react, I tell my girlfriend, I used to live with a cool roommate, and I told her, and they were like, "Hey, David, you always taught me to, or telling me about, think in end results and not how it's going to happen. Don't react, but respond." And I'm like, "Oh, you're right. And then they help me. So
Yeah.
I rely on, yeah, I don't think I know it all, not at all. And I think that works really well, because people know that I'm open to feedback, and I always invite them, and I'm not taking it personal, and I'm just trying to grow. And that's like one of those attitude shifts that I've in the last 3 years for me, that it's really brought a lot of good in my life, because I wasn't always like that, right?
It's funny, like at the very beginning, you said, with your swimming, that you had a good core team of people around you, and that's why you were excelling. And I always think that all of the stuff that we talk about and learn about, and within the world of sports, transfers over to normal life completely, because us as individuals, how we go about and how we function in life and how well we do, still makes a difference with what our team is around us. Who the people are around us will make a huge difference about how we go about. Like, we can really work on ourselves, and obviously as an individual, if we don't feel fear and loneliness and things, and that if we're happy on our own, that's brilliant. But if you also have a team of people, like you're saying, your friends were almost reminding you of your own advice back at you, is brilliant. And that's what helps you keep thriving, doesn't it, each day?
Yeah. And we all have our blind spots, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, can't see behind. Yeah, it's true, and it's good to live that way. If we're talking about this, it's good to be a good example, and follow that advice. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, like, I can really feel myself when I'm sort of slipping a little bit, and I get really irritated with myself if I'm not living by, if I'm not like practicing what I preach. Even down to, I mean, the last few months, I haven't been able to do much yoga or meditation because I've had a baby. But if anyone came to me and said, I haven't been able to do much yoga or meditation, and it's massively affecting me because I've had a newborn, then I would go, okay, well, then can you find what you find in yoga and meditation? Can you find that in other ways? Maybe it's a case of when the baby's asleep, you take 10 minutes of silence, or maybe that's when you do a little bit of meditation, but you don't have to set up in the corner of your room. You can just do it on the sofa with, and just have some time out. Can you do that instead? And for about 4 weeks, I felt like I was in this, like, blah, my brain was so loud. And then I was like, okay, hang on a minute. What advice would I give somebody else who's got this going on? And then one day, she was asleep, and I did sit there and I did shut up and went, oh God, that's what I've been missing. That's what I've been needing, is that meditation or silence. But it definitely took a while for me to get that.
Sometimes pain is a good motivator, right? If the pain becomes too big, it's like, okay, now I'm gonna do something, and then we're finding back to what works for us.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
One of the I'm jumping a little bit here, but one of the questions that came in, actually, he's a swimmer. He's called Mikey the Fish on Instagram.
Okay, cool name.
He asked about how, because the pools have been shut for the last
Yeah.
year, certainly in the UK, and so he's really struggled through lockdown. Um, but he asked what you advise he does, um, when the pools aren't open, to keep going and keep motivating, which I think would affect people in all different areas. If you are losing, if you're lacking in that thing that you normally do that keeps you afloat, if you like, and you can't do it, what would you say to that?
Yeah, wow, that's So I would compare that to, if an athlete is injured, he also all of a sudden he can't do what he's used to doing, right? And then it goes back to trying to find, so you have a bit more time, you have the chance to install maybe a new routine for the time being, and you could, I mean, I'm biased now, but I would say, okay, get into mental training, try to find out, you know, because there is things that you can do right now, or if you can go to the gym, become physically stronger. I'll give you an example. That was Natalie Coughlin. She was an American swimmer, and she had an operation on her shoulder, and she couldn't do arms for, I think, 8 months or so, 6 or 8 months. So what she did, she could have given up at the time and just be like, I'm done. And what she did, she swam those 8 months only kick. And you know how freaking boring that is, just kicking for 8 months? It really is boring. You do 20, 25 hours just kicking. But what happened was she got so good at kicking that after her shoulder was recovered and she got her stroke back together, she broke one world record after the other in butterfly, in backstroke, and in freestyle, because that's where you have those underwater fly kicks where you go pow, 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 pow.
Yeah.
So it's about like finding something that will, if you can't swim, what else can you do that will, as soon as the pool opens, you're going to have such a good mindset, you're going to have such a physically strong body, you're going to have such good nutrition, whatever it is for you that your intuition tells you, you're going to go and take that and hopefully excel.
Yeah.
Yeah, what else do you want to do? Like build your own pool? I mean, it's difficult.
Yeah. That's such good advice, though. I love the fact that over the last, well, I don't know how many years, but the fact that people are much more aware in the world of sport and everywhere else, but of this mental coaching. It didn't exist, did it, before?
I couldn't even tell you. I was lucky. Found out in my last year of swimming from 2011 to 2012. I got lucky because the University of Virginia, hired a sports psychologist, and I could go there once a week. And oh my God, all these nuts that I had in my head. I would swim really slow if somebody took off faster than me, like left or right, and I'd be in my head and swim badly. Those knots just all like disappeared. But I had no idea how and what was happening because I was lacking the awareness. So I just had the experience in my last year, and it was phenomenal, I have to say. I didn't know what. Yeah.
Oh, I like them being called knots. That's a really nice way of.
I,
That's a good way of describing them.
Yeah, and I mean, like as an athlete, some of them train 30 hours a week. They are training physically to a point where some of them go in overtraining and they break down and have to stop like for a long time. Or, they try to get a lot of sleep. They try to eat right. They make the social sacrifices. They do all these things. But then one of the most important things is the mind. They they don't do that. So I'm like, why wouldn't you train like an hour or two less a week and let your body recover a bit and invest that time into the mental side of things? Because when you ask athletes, and that's how I got to the idea to transition from coaching executives to athletes, when I asked them how much of your performance is mental, they will tell me anything between 80, 90, 70, 95%. And I ask them the next question: what do you do every week or every day to train the mind, to study the mind? And then there's a long gap.
Yeah, wow.
And that's how I figured, okay, that's probably a good idea to start working with athletes.
Yeah. I One of my very first interviews on this podcast was with a driver called Ted Bjork, who's a world championship touring car driver. On the grid, on the starting grid, he does visualization. He'll touch his arm as well, so that's an association, or that sort of gets him into the mind space. And then he'll visualize the circuit, and he'll know the circuit so well that he'll be able to visualize his entire route, all the corners, and the accelerations, decelerations, and things. But also he'll visualize, obviously, succeeding, winning, doing really well during it. How much of that do you think? because I know that not all drivers do that, for example, but have you come across that as well, that sort of visualization?
Yeah, that's everything. I think, at least in my philosophy, that's what it is. The people that are on top of their sport, it's the people that can see themselves there, that want to be there before it's happened.
Yeah,
I mean, that is it. That's like the nail on the, how do you say, nail on the coffin. That's it.
the law of attraction.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. They feel worthy of being there. They feel like they can do it. They believe in themselves. They inspire everybody around them, help the team, whatever it is. And yeah, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's like that power to look into the future and really believe it.
Yeah.
Hmm. It's
And so
good
how much
stuff.
do you bring that into your day-to-day life? Because it all
Always.
goes over, doesn't it?
Always. You can visualize everything, you can literally, seriously, for me personally, I have 10 end results that I choose for myself, and I do it every single day. And because I'm working with the Natural Success Academy, it's William Wycliffe. He's also one of these mentors. I changed my life, and we're working with thousands of creators I'm in America, right? I'm in Switzerland, but working with the American division. And that's what we develop. It's like that you have it on a vision board, and then you just close your eyes and you go one by one for 30 seconds. You tune into it every single day, and it becomes clearer and clearer. In the beginning, if you want a house, maybe you don't even know exactly where it is. It's blurry, it doesn't have color, but it's like any other muscle. If I want to grow my biceps and it's small now, I go to the gym, it'll start to get bigger.
Yeah.
And it's the imagination, that house will start to fill out. It will all of a sudden say, where you'll see where it is. Oh, it's on the beach. Nice. You'll see, it's like a rectangle. Oh, nice. It has, 2 floors. Okay. It has dark balcony. It start to come. That's the power of it. And then we're back to repetition. And I just do that every day. It takes me 10 minutes. And these things it's sometimes creepy how
Mhm.
fast they come into our presence, and I'm like, oh my god, I created this in 6 months. And I'm like, shit, I'm a powerful creator. And
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that when you're when you're in tune with that stuff, you're open to receiving stuff as well. You've got to also be open to the possibility of stuff coming in and not have roadblocks there as well, because it's very easy to be like, oh, I really want this, I really want that, um, but not even be aware of opportunities that are coming in.
Yeah, how do you do that? How would you say you remove those blocks? Because I 100% I see it as well, like that.
I think challenging, I think that you've got to get right the way down and work out what that block is. So if it um I don't think I'm going to get that new job because I'm not as good as someone else.
Yeah.
So then you would then find out what that actually means, because that's actually a very flippant statement. I'm not as good as that person that I don't know. I haven't got a clue whether they're good or better. Well, that's not specific at all, But it's a very 100% statement, isn't it? And we're very good at that. Black and white. I'm not as good as that person there. What the hell? That's a 100%. I am not very good. So then I think you break it down and try and find out what the core belief is of what that I'm not very good means. Not very good at what? Can you find something specific? So let's say, I'm not very good at interviews. Okay. And what's that based on? Find the evidence for and the evidence against. Normally, people actually can't find an awful lot of evidence to support their 100% I'm shit statements, which means that there's actually some room for some positive percentage to creep in. And as soon as you start realizing that your belief about yourself is not black or white, that there's an element of, so I'm not I'm not very good at X. Is that all the time? No, that's not all the time. So sometimes you are good at X. Well, yeah, okay. Sometimes I'm all right. Oh, okay. So then, therefore, that it's not 100% actually, is it? It's maybe, what would you say, 70%? I'm not very good. Yeah, maybe. So if I said to you, you're really bad, you're not as good as that person at all, you're really bad at interviews or whatever, how would you react? And, quite often people would be like, you don't know me.
That's right.
Why are you saying that to me? You don't know me. So there's even more of a percentage that can be taken off because you don't believe it. So finding out actually what the reality is of your black and white statements, I think, and then realizing that actually then if you flip them over, that actually there's an awful lot of, actually I am okay, I am good at this, there may be room for improvement, there may be stuff I can work on, but I am quite good. So therefore, things could come to me.
Mm.
There is space, there is room, I could do stuff with new opportunities.
That's so good. Thanks for sharing that. So it's like breaking it down, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's so good.
it's
Yeah.
never black and white. There's always something in there. And I think that, like we all know about the chimp brain, and the angry parrots is another one as well, where you we're good at listening to the thoughts that go, you're crap, you're rubbish, you're fat, you're old, you're this, you're that. But if it was a friend that was walking around saying it to you, or a person that was constantly, or a parrot on your shoulder that was constantly saying it, you would get rid of the parrot, wouldn't you? You wouldn't have to be friends with that person anymore. And yet we do it to ourselves and think that that's fine and listen to it.
That is so true. And also that there's a quote that comes to my mind is like, worry is the misuse of imagination.
Yeah.
Like for some reason we always think, oh, we can't do it. Everybody else out there can, but we cannot. It's like, I wonder if that is similar to, for example, if I scroll through Facebook, if there's good news, basically I barely look at it. But if there's a cop car burning and exploding, I'll like go to it. I wonder if that's like the similar mechanism that we're drawn towards. I don't know, like the drama, the negative. I wonder. What do you think?
So I think that drama can be a habit. We're good at I believe that just existing is boring for lots and lots of people. And drama is a something, isn't it? And it's something that we can be addicted to. It makes our adrenaline go up. It makes, or the aftermath gives us reward. It gives us more oxytocin or something. There's something physiological that happens when drama exists, which is more addictive than sort of nothing, nice, easy.
Yeah.
And it's rare that we get the massive highs, the ecstasies, they're hard. They are harder to get, I think. And so I think people can be more addicted to the drama, and that becomes a habit.
Yeah, it becomes a habit. And you're saying my mom is coming to my mind because my mom is always worried. When I travel, she's always worried. I have to like text her, okay, I'm there and so on. And it makes zero sense because I'm 33 years old. I travel all the time. I know what I'm doing. And instead of, I'm thought that to myself as well. Instead of worrying, mom, you could, think about what is David learning? Who's he meeting? What is he doing? Who's he helping? Who's helping him? Like, what is he up to? And she's worried. But I understand now, even though it makes zero sense from a rational point of view, it's just a habit. She has a habit to worry because when we were younger, and probably I was part of the development of that worry because I probably did a lot of stupid shit. And now it's just a habit. So if the power comes into her standard thoughts, because she's like programmed to that, is like she tilts towards worry.
Yeah.
And it's just a habit because it feels comfortable. It is what we know. And yeah.
Yeah. there's God, I've interviewed some really interesting people. There was another guy called David Rahman who's written a book called Let It Go. He was saying that we, you know, that it's hard to let stuff go as well, like negative stuff, because what comes with the package of drama and negativity is also quite often a lot of support. So when we're sad about something, or we're reactive about something, many of us, not everybody, but most of us have friends that will offer sympathy and offer love and offer help. And they make you feel really good. They make you feel loved.
Yeah, wow.
Feel like that you've got people around you. They make you feel like you're not lonely.
Yeah.
If you let shit go completely and nothing affects you, then you become a very you become a very solid person. But you're probably not getting the same amount of check-ins from mates. You know, you're probably not feeling the same degree of love from and support from friends, because you're okay, because they think you're okay.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, I definitely through my life have always been a real lone ranger. But that's not because I've always been fine. It's because I have put up a lot of barriers. And so the flip side is also that if you're someone that puts up the barriers, you then almost have to ask for the support, because people don't realize that you're needing it.
Yeah.
But that's quite often that was a really interesting thing that he taught me, you know, is that people find it hard to let shit go, because that means that they're not just letting go of the problem, they're letting go of the love and support that comes with that issue.
Yeah, Alex, that's some next level awareness. But that's what life is about, right? We're learning how stuff works, what is going on for us. And if the information that you just gave, I mean, it's so useful, because now when this is happening, you know what's going on. I know what's going on then. And you can say, okay, this is what it is. And now I'm going to, as you just said, I'm going to learn and become comfortable with asking for support. And isn't that a good skill to have? To ask people for help. And if you have a dream, if you know what you want, what we'll find is that people want to help, right? And all of a sudden you are connected and you are hanging out with the people, with the right kind of people. So I like that. I love that.
I think people really forget that, and me as well, you know, that people love helping each other. It makes them feel good, you know, but we're really bad at asking for help, because we think that we're burdening people. But it's not burdening, it's giving somebody something they can do for you, which people love, actually.
Yeah.
It's too hard to ask. You know, I could really do with some extra support this week. Is that okay? What do you need? I don't know. I just need some love. I need to know that you're there. Is that okay? Oh my God, if you heard that from a friend that chose you because you are that person that could do that, it would make you feel great.
Yeah,
So
100%.
Massaged, you know, we all feel great as a result.
100%. And but why is it that we're scared? Probably fear of being rejected. But it's not rational. It's like even when we're going through that, I'm like, oh yeah, of course I give you love, right? And it's like, but still, it's difficult. Still, it's difficult. It's crazy. So it's good that we speak about this, because it's also always a good reminder for everybody, right? For us to go and do it.
And I think the hardest one is in relationships, to do that in relationships. And I hold my hand up, you know, because that's my biggest fear of rejection. That's where the biggest weakness is for me, is being rejected by a partner or somebody I love. And instead of just saying, I need some more love from you, or I need some more support, you know, I'm feeling X, Y, and Z, I'm like, nope, not going to ask, because la 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 la, you know, blah blah, chimp brain, bloody parrot, blah 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 blah. Well, then that's a barrier. That's breaking down what could be, you know, what could make them much more loving towards you, and it's a win-win then, because then you're both more loving towards each other.
Yeah, you're so right. And I have a similar thing, not with my girlfriend, I have with my family. I'm like, these are the people that I love the most, and I have the hardest time to express how I feel. Because I can tell other people that I love them, that I enjoy being around them. I have no problem with that because I, my programming has changed, but my programming with my family is so deep that I am like, how can I not do that? It's so, it's like the thing. If you can learn to do that, then you can do everything, right? So
And it's just about being brave, I think. It's trying it out and seeing how it works, but being brave to take that leap is much harder.
yeah, wow, it is good topic. It's a
Yeah,
great topic.
yeah. I just love how all of the different things all overlap. You know, we start talking about athletes and, you know, and elite athletes, and it's no different. All of the elements work for your day-to-day life, and
Yeah.
you know, for every person.
Yeah. And I think that is because, so that's just my philosophy behind it. But it is, I think, because our universe, our planet is governed by certain laws. And those laws are not all taught in school, right? But for example, gravity, it just is. If we believe it or not, like if I have this pen and I let it go, it's going to go if I believe it or not. And there's other laws in the universe, like how things vibrate, how they attract each other and stuff like that. It's like, if we believe it or if we know them or not, it doesn't matter. They still work. So it works in, and I mean, everything is just a vibration. Everything is energy. So it just is. And then it's good for us to develop the level of awareness that we're trying to do, that everybody's trying to do, right? And just play by these laws and get in harmony with these laws, because again, they're just here if we believe them or not. So it's best to be in harmony and start to create what we love. And I think that's why it's so universal about relationships, athletes, being a mom, everything.
Yeah. Your Tell us about your next workshop. You've got a confidence workshop, haven't you?
Yeah, so if for that's for athletes, exactly. We're going to do from May 24 to 28. We're going to go for an hour a day, and we're doing a workshop where we just work on confidence, and where we get basically those exercises that we talked about in the beginning, standing in front of the mirror, writing it down, visualizing confidence and all that. That's what we're going to do with an hour a day. And if there's any athletes listening to that, even if not athletes, if you want to work on confidence, that'd
Yeah.
be cool to have you.
Yeah, yeah. That's amazing. How exciting. So is it like a retreat, or I guess at the moment, can you do it in person or do you do it on Zoom?
I do everything online now. Hey, so it's just on. I had on Zoom or YouTube. I haven't decided yet. Probably going to do it on Zoom so we can like see each other. And yeah, we'll just go for an hour a day, because in over a week we can already like install like a good new routine, a good new. It's not a habit yet, but what should be a habit in a little bit, right? So that's why I do it like over the days, and just like for an hour a day, all online.
How exciting. Have you got any tips for anybody who want to break or want to create new habits but don't have a lot of time? Is there any ways of doing that each day? I remember no, well, you carry on. You start.
Yeah,
Let's jump
I
in.
mean, what I did was, hey, so yeah, I can share that, right? But I smoked a lot of weed. I used to smoke a lot of weed, and I tried everything to stop, and I couldn't do it. I stopped and I started again. I stopped and started again. Okay, and what I did now was I just did that exercise of writing it down. That for me, it was like not moving towards something, it was moving away from it. And I wrote down that it's bad for my lungs, that it's making my lungs dirty and black, and that I'm low on energy when I smoke weed, that I'm not paying attention to people, that I'm not the best version of myself, that I'm not enthusiastic. All these things, I wrote it down every day for about 2 or 3 weeks. And I told myself in the mirror as well. And that's like 5 minutes a day, no more. And then what I did on top of that, I promised my mom, and I would never let my mom down. And that was so strong. These two in combination, I stopped completely. And it got to a point that even when people smoke around me, I'm totally cool. I don't even have like, it's just a different. That's a difference, I would say, between using your willpower and going with the head against the wall, because sooner or later when you're having a shitty day or a shitty moment, you're like, okay, let me have the cigarette or let me have the weed or whatever. And we go back, or I went back. That happened to me. But when you reprogram what's in there by with using the repetition, those simple exercises, and making a strong promise to somebody that you love and respect and all that, I think that's a super good combo, and that won't take longer than 5 minutes a day.
That's amazing. That's such a good way of doing it as well. And you
Yeah.
can just, I guess, if you write stuff down, you can just. I definitely, in the past, have used post-it notes and just sort of stuck stuff around. I'm sticking stuff on my mirror, if I needed reminders of stuff.
That's right. That's
And
right.
it's actually a really good thing, like you said about doing it in front of the mirror. That's great because we all look in the mirror.
Yeah. And what I love about this is, if you want to become like, if you have this picture of who you want to be, you look yourself in the mirror and you just look in one eye at the time. And what happens is you will see the spark in your eyes. You will see that burning desire, like in the movie when it goes ding, you'll see it, that there's this fighter in you, and that is a burning desire to get that. And that is, I get goosebumps just thinking about it, because you see yourself and you just look for these, like, you look and you say who you want to be. And it goes very deep, because they say the eyes are a gateway to the soul, I think, right?
Yeah.
So I would encourage anybody, like, to try it out. I do it now. I can do it when my girlfriend is around, but in the beginning I was like, okay, I can only do this when there's nobody there, nobody's seeing me, and it takes a bit getting used to, but it's super, super powerful.
Yeah. That's such a good idea.
Yeah.
And you're really talking to yourself.
Yeah. And it's so simple.
Yeah.
And you can see maybe there's a smile coming on your face when you say it. You start to feel your chest coming out, and it's all these things that they go hand in hand. And you just got to do that for a little while. And then once it's in there, you'll see you start to, and you're going to be ready to receive, because all of a sudden, you've seen it, you've said it, and you feel, as you said, you're ready to receive it, and you're just going to attract it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Have you got anything else that you can think that you would like to say or cover before we finish for the day?
I would like to ask you in front of the audience, so you can't say no, that you're gonna be on my YouTube show for my athletes, and that we can have another conversation and continue
Yeah,
this.
I'd love to. That would
Okay,
be great.
that'd be absolutely wonderful to have you. It's great
Yeah,
chatting with you. I enjoyed the topics a lot.
yeah, it was good fun. Thank you so much, David. I really hope your workshop goes well, and I'll spread the word.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
Hey.